Hey, everybody. Super excited to have Michael Malden with us today. Michael is the CEO of Storyteller Promotions. Michael, if you'll start, tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Okay. Storyteller Promotions is a full service brand management and promotional products company. It is run by my wife and I, Ruth. We've been in business for almost 14 years,
Okay.
and we are digital nomads. We don't have any home base. We are based out of Texas, but we are constantly on the road, going to visit suppliers and clients.
Very cool. Uh, my grandparents used to be, they weren't full-time RVers, but they might as well have been full-time. What's your favorite place to kind of put down some stakes and stay for a couple of days?
The Rio Grande Valley of Texas.
Okay, very
Uh,
cool.
Absolutely beautiful.
Very cool. So your company is Storyteller Promotions. Tell us, if somebody wanted to check you out, how would they find you on the internet?
We are both on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We have a Facebook account, and we have our URL, HTTPS storytellerpromotions.com.
Okay, perfect. So tell us a little bit about um, how long have you had the business? You said for 14 years?
14 years. Yes, sir.
Okay. And what do you contribute most to your growth in those 14 years?
Um, I like to say that our service model surpasses anybody else that I'm aware of. We've had a tremendous supportive network of other professionals
Mhm.
that have helped us build our business, and then drive and determination. We just keep moving. We don't stop.
Very cool. So tell me a little, you do promotional products. So what's the gamut of that? Are you doing attire and even things like pens and notebooks, or do you have a specific niche that you stay in?
So there's two sides to the company actually. One is the promotional product side, and that runs the full gamut of virtually anything you can think of to put your logo on,
Mhm.
from the tchotchke style item to crystal awards. We've done it all, and we continue
Okay.
to do it all. We've branded a number of award programs for large organizations. That's part of it. The other side of the business is that being a brand management company, um, there's a story behind every brand. There's a culture behind every brand. And what we do is we help owners of those companies ensure that all the people that work for them, all the places they work in, and all the processes that they use continue to reinforce that brand from a cultural standpoint. So it's the colors you wear, the way you talk. Um, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, at some point you have to close your eyes at night and just hope everything is going correctly when you're not there anymore. And we try to, what we do is we go into the organization and help make that a reality. That 99.9 times out of 10, it's going to go out just exactly the way you envisioned it.
Very
So that's
nice.
the other side. It's the training side.
Very nice. So you said that it's your wife and yourself. I'm assuming that you don't have, other than vendors, you don't really actually have any employees,
That's
correct?
correct. Correct.
So,
Yeah, that was by design. We
okay.
absolutely by design. When we started the company, we both of us had come from corporate America, traveled to go to work, commuted, all that stuff that everybody else does. And when we decided to start the company, there were two stipulations. One, there would no employees. It was all contractual relationships with vendors and suppliers, and that we would never have a sticks and bricks or a physical location that we had to commute to do what we do.
Mhm.
So for years, worked out of the house, converted the entire downstairs of our townhome to a production facility and worked out of there.
Very nice. So you're, while you don't have employees, your vendors really do kind of become your employees. And having come from corporate America myself, um, working with vendors can sometimes be a bit of a challenge because they're not your employees, but your livelihood depends on their doing. So tell me a little bit about how you manage or how you figured out the best way to manage your vendors to make sure that it doesn't cause a problem, especially as we were going through, COVID and supply chains were a huge issue. How have you managed through that process?
I think the first thing you have to do is that you have to remember it's a relationship, right? So it's I'm as much their customer as they are of a customer of me. So keeping that relationship healthy is probably the most important thing. The second thing that we have the advantage of is we're members of an owner's buying group called
Okay.
Adventures in Advertising, and that group actually has a supplier relations team that keeps us in contact with what we call the MVPs, the top suppliers in the industry. Um, they help maintain that relationship. They bring people to the table. So it's been incredibly successful being a part of that. We've been doing that since 2017.
Okay, perfect. So I touched on COVID a little bit and supply demand issues. I know that supply became an issue through COVID, but I would suspect that your demand also dried up a little bit where you would have had a lot of clients that paused things because there wasn't necessarily a need to do merchandise or to the branding, and this is where you and I will probably suffer together. I am a firm believer that when a company is not doing well, their very first instinct is to cut back marketing dollars. And my personal belief is that that's where you should actually put your marketing dollar, your money, because if people don't know about you, they're certainly not going to buy from you. So if you're trying to get people to buy from you, they need to know about you.
Correct.
So during COVID, I suspect that you probably went through a period where people were cutting back marketing budgets. They weren't using as much for branding and things like that. And so, did you really suffer from a supply chain issue because you didn't necessarily have the demand for it, or did your demand stay high and supply chain became a problem?
So demand obviously dropped, but it didn't drop entirely because it shifted instead.
Hmm.
Um, what became incredibly popular was branded masks,
Okay,
branded hand sanitizer. That's where the supply chain issues happened because you couldn't get it any place.
sure.
Um, we were able to, because we have all of our own printing equipment, we were able to do masks in house. But the interesting thing that we saw a shift in the industry was what we call kitting. So it would be a cup, a mask, or a notepad, and they were sent. Companies were sending them to the employees' homes
Hmm.
because they were now working from home. And
Hmm.
we also had little computer kits and those type of things. So it dropped, but it also shifted and created an entirely new market that probably would not have been out there had it been for COVID.
Okay. So I have to ask just because I find this fascinating. Your digital nomads, you don't have a home. You're sitting in your home right now and it's on wheels and you move wherever you want to. It looks like you have a beautiful fifth wheel. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, it's a 42-foot fifth wheel made by Alliance.
Very
It's a
nice.
toy hauler.
So then, and that might actually answer, is all of your print shop in the garage of the toy hall? Like, is that, or how do you keep your stuff with you? So you just keep it in the garage of the toy hall? Because as you
Yep.
were saying that, I'm like, where do you drive two RVs? One is your print shop. So now that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, for, so you mentioned the kitting. Um, the industry or the business that I came from, we called it pack and play. It was essentially, you would pick things off of a shelf. The printer would keep those things, and almost Amazon style. Like you would do brochures, you would do cups, you would do all those things, and then you would order a kit, and they would pull it off the shelf, put the kit together. put the wrap around it and send it out for us as the need arose. So it was almost like digital printing, but kind of on demand supply, all that stuff. How do you manage through that when you have, do you do you carry that supply stuff with you, or are you kind of fulfilling that as you go? The whole digital nomad thing to me is fascinating. So I love as much as you have about that.
So it's a combination of two different approaches. We have a rule in house that if it's anything more than 200 touches of
Hmm.
something, then we outsource it to one of
Okay.
our trusted suppliers.
Okay.
Under 200, we will look at, does it make sense for us to do it here, or does it make sense for somebody, one of our suppliers, to do? Um, we have manufacturers and decorators within our network where you can call me and say, I want this. And I'm going to look at it and say, okay, I don't have all this stuff here. I'm going to have this one put it together. I'm going to have this one decorated, and this one's going to ship it.
Okay.
So I'm never, in some of the cases, especially the large ones. I mean, we're not Keebler elves in a tree here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's we're not making the cookies.
Yeah.
It's we manage the process to make sure you're getting the right price on the right product, delivered at our time when you need it every single time. That's our talent. Um, where we really come into play is making sure that the brand is the brand is the brand.
Okay.
So your brand doesn't go on a hot pink t-shirt with a green something else unless you absolutely approve that's what it is. So the
Mhm.
brand integrity is what we really pay attention to.
Okay.
Probably gave you more than you asked for, but
No, 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 that's perfect. I think that that's fascinating. And I think that the fact that you are kind of in that digital nomadic lifestyle, um, almost guarantees that the products are going to be more correct because you have to pay attention to that stuff. You don't always get a chance. You're not always doing things in house. And so it makes you focus on that stuff more. So I think that that's great. So switching gears, I personally would struggle with the concept of, um, I don't work from home well. I go to an office and I work and I do all that type of stuff. Working from home for me is a challenge, and you are permanently working from home in beautiful locations. How do you manage your personal life and the business life and getting everything done when you're at home all the time? How does that work for you?
um, somebody I respected many years back talked about, life is in buckets, right? So if you
Mhm.
take that and you got to put your time in buckets, and when you're in that bucket, you just concentrate on being in that bucket and
Mhm.
everything that needs to go on in that block of time. And if you don't do it on purpose, you're never going to get it done. So we everything goes on the calendar, um, including fun.
Okay.
Um, if Yeah, I wish you could see the view. The beauty of being able to sit on your deck, have this conversation, place an order, talk to clients, customers, and still look out and see this view. It's easy. It's not hard.
Mhm.
It requires a little bit of discipline. I will admit that there's times when you're sitting here and you're like, I'd rather be riding a bicycle or going to the pool. But
Mhm.
that's even when you're in corporate America.
Yeah.
Same thing happens. You just
It's
got to be
probably
a
more so.
disciplined individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least here, I know that if I get my work done, I can go hit the pool and we're good. I don't have to
Yeah.
spend 8 hours.
Yeah. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the common misconceptions about running a business that you have discovered as you've been doing this? You came from corporate America. When you start your own business, there are times where it's like, oh, I never thought about that because it was already done for me or whatever. Now that you're running your own business, what are some of the common misconceptions that you had going into it?
Uh, I have to say, I was incredibly lucky in that in my formative life, I was actually the president of a company.
Okay.
So I had that business experience going in. Probably the biggest surprise for me was when you're an entrepreneur and you run your own business, you're on stage 24/7.
Hmm.
Uh, when you're working for somebody else, the end of the day, you can kind of put everything on the rack and you don't have to, you're not looking at it again until you arrive back at the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, or maybe a little bit sooner. Um, in this particular case, if the phone call comes in at 8 o'clock at night with somebody needing something, you're picking up the phone, you're answering it.
Hmm.
There is no downtime really, and that was a little surprising for me. The other one is the sales side. I was never a salesman. I've
Hmm.
never been on that side of it. Managerial, consultative. Yeah, that's what I did. When we were growing the other business, there was a business development manager who handled all of that stuff.
Hmm.
I just gave my blessing on most of it, or tailed along with her to help close a contract or whatever it might be. So actually going out, networking, meeting new people, that was never my anything I had to do. So that was a little bit of a surprise.
Okay. And you just hit on something that I think is unique. Um, Similarly, as a business owner, networking becomes very important. So I have joined chapters or chambers of commerce. I have joined chapters of BNI. I've done those types of things. Because you're so nomadic, you don't necessarily have the ability to do that. But on this flip side, you're kind of integrating yourself into new audiences on a very frequent basis, which probably actually helps your business grow even faster because of the fact that you're not pigeonholed into one location because that's where your house is and that's where you work and that's where you live. You kind of have the ability to network and do that over multiple territories. How do you go about finding those opportunities to network?
I'll have to give the credit to that to my wife.
Okay.
As we prepare to go to another location. So on average, we'll stay about 3 weeks in a given
Okay.
area. Um, so as we're preparing to go to the next area, she'll start researching who are the like companies in that area that we'd like to either network with, talk with, um, visit, whatever it might be. Are there any potential clients in the area? Any potential suppliers in the area? And she'll fill out our schedule for that 3 week period of time that we're there, where we're meeting with new people and talking to new people. The other thing that we do is we are both part of a 100% virtual national networking group called Success Champion Networking.
Okay.
Um, we get online. Well, I just finished a meeting prior to coming on here, so we have a weekly chapter meeting, um, and I'm networking with people Detroit, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Colorado. I mean, they're all over the place. So that's another cool thing is that I'm talking to these people on a weekly basis, making relationships, developing friendships. And then when we get to go to those places, now I can actually meet them in person,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
Very
Um,
cool.
yeah, it takes a little bit of work, but again, it's a lot of fun because you're constantly meeting new people.
Mhm.
We during our time there down here in San Antonio, we visited one of the chapters virtually, found out they were having a networking event, actually went to that networking event, and then got invited to another networking event as a result of that. So, you know, it's great.
Very cool. Last question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Still doing what we're doing. I don't see any changes other than growing. I would like to, by that time, finish my book, um, and do more speaking engagements and training for companies. I have a tremendous passion for seeing people's what we call experiential branding.
Mhm.
I, I love seeing people have such a positive experience with somebody's brand that it overcomes price objections or anything else.
Mm,
I'd rather do business with you just because I love how you do it. I like seeing that happen for companies. So if
very
I can
cool.
have anything to do help with that, I'm all in.
Very cool. So I said that was your last question, but you mentioned a book. Uh, are you writing a book on, is it a how-to? Is it a guide? Is it a personal history? Is it a biography? What are you writing?
It's a guide on how to leverage the three things that every business shares: your people, your places, and the processes to attract, maintain, and retain customers.
Very cool.
It's creating that brand loyalty.
Very cool. Michael, I greatly appreciate your time today and your insights. It's been fantastic, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon to see how everything's going for you.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much,
Not a
Tom.
problem. Thanks, Michael.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.